Hi, good day. This is State Senator Sylvia Santana here, just coming to you for the virtual career planning day. I'm so excited to be here with you to talk about what I do and also just answer all of your questions. So we'll get started here. First question is, how long have you been in your position? So I am a state lawmaker, elected official for Detroit, Dearborn, and Melvindale. I represent 250,000 people out of 10 million in the state of Michigan. And I've been in my position for now 3 years. We have in the state Senate what you call terms, and we have two 4-year terms, and so we serve for 8 years total if we're reelected. And so I serve right now my first term as a state senator in the legislature. The next question is, what is a typical workday like? So for me, a typical workday consists of starting my days early and ending them rather late. A typical workday is never the same. I typically start my day around 4 a.m. When I get up, head to the gym to get some exercise, and then I come back and read the newspaper to see what are all the current events going on locally and as well as nationally. Typically, I look for events or things that are going on in my local area first, in Detroit, in Dearborn, and Melvindale. And then I look for events going on at the state level as well as the federal level. And so, based off of that information, I can determine what is impacting my constituency in the legislature, and potentially could be impacting them in our community. So, for example, when COVID hit about a year ago, that was something that was impacting all of us, and the biggest goal at the time was to get PPE into Michigan, as well as make sure our hospitals were equipped. So that is something that we worked on. But no 2 days are the same. One for me, I serve in the district Monday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then I serve at the legislature in the Lansing State Capitol Tuesday through Thursday, where we take votes on legislation. We work on budget, the state budget, making sure that money is being used for resources in the community and throughout the state. And also we work on policy initiatives that impact our communities, as well as things that impact your schools. So those are some of the things that we do. And then once I have finished my day in the legislature, I typically will return back to home. And then perhaps if there's a meeting in the evening with some of my community groups, I'll go to those meetings to update them on some of the work that I'm doing on their behalf in the legislature. The next question is, what do you like best and least about your job, and why? Well, I will say that, oftentimes, there's a lot of partisan politics where Republicans and Democrats do not get along on the various issues. And so sometimes that can provide a ripple wave in our communities, because decisions are being made that may not be good for our communities, or they may be good decisions. It just all depends. So one of the things I would say that I like best about my position is that we have a diverse group of opinions in this legislative body. So there's 110 representatives who serve in the House, and there's 38 senators, which I'm one of them, who serves in the Senate. And it's nice to have a diverse group of people working on behalf of their constituency with various opinions and bringing those opinions to have conversation and dialogue to make policy decisions. We also have interest groups who also represent their clients and look to make the best decisions possible as well for their advocacy and the legislature as well. So it's nice to have a diverse group of opinions and not always agree on everything, but listen to each other to find understanding. What I like least about my role as a state lawmaker is that sometimes it takes a long time to get legislation done. So it may take 1 year, it may take 2 years, it may take 40 years. It just all depends. There's policy that has been being worked on for many years, and so it's a nice, but it's also when there is a sense of urgency in the community. Sometimes policy does not get the attention necessary to be supported quickly. So it will take sometimes a long time frame to get those things done. All right, the next question is, what led you to your current job? Well, I was served prior to my time in the legislature. I served my community as a community president, where I worked on community issues like making sure that affordable housing was available, and also making sure that through the first Great Recession in 2008, where people were losing their homes, that our community had advocacy from to make sure that people could sustain themselves in their properties. So that was something that I fought hard for. I also worked on making sure that we kept our community beautiful with a lot of our other community folks. So making sure we picked up the trash in our communities, that we did neighborhood watch programs, and that people were connected to the community as well. So, through my job as a financial underwriter, or someone who actually approves loans, I worked with many of the community people who wanted to get loans for their businesses, who could not go to a regular bank to do so. And with that process, I learned that there were so many people who um, were challenged with other things like having felonies on their records or having offense on their record that were keeping them from being able to do what they really loved and enjoyed. So I found myself in the legislature back in 2017, helping to work on those issues. The next question is, what type of interests, abilities, and skills would help a person to be successful in your occupation? Well, I think the biggest skill that is helpful to anyone who decides to be an elected official is to first understand civics and understand state government as well as federal government. I think it's also very important to understand um, the Constitution. I think that is also very important, the Michigan Constitution as well as the US Constitution. So those are some of the uh, civics side of things. Now, as far as skills go, because that's what the question asked, I think the other big things that you need to have to be in this role is great listening skills. I think the largest portion of our role here in the state legislature is to be great listeners. And I think that's really important to being able to make sound policy decisions. It also is important to be able to serve your community well. So I think that is really important to be a good listener. The second skill that I think is really important is to be a great speaker. I think it's important to be able to articulate to your community and to the larger audience of people across the state what exactly is going on in the state of Michigan, as well as being able to provide information for the constituency around current issues and things that you're working on in the legislature. Lastly, the biggest skill that I think you need to have is being able to read. We read a lot of policy and legislation that really requires you to have an understanding of how things work and what is needed. I think that's very important. And lastly, I think that you also need to be able to um, ask questions of people and in those professions to be able to get good answers. So those are some of the things that I think you need to be able to do. Ask questions, read, listen, and speak. Next question is, what type of education, training, technical knowledge, and experience is necessary for this work? Well, I think I mentioned it before that in the state legislature, you don't have to have a secondary education like a college education or a degree. We have people who come into this work from being farmers, business owners, and people who come from to serving their community. So you don't necessarily have to have a secondary education to actually serve in the state legislature. But it is something that is very helpful when it comes to being able to um, work hard on behalf of the people. If you decide to get a secondary education, I think the biggest area where people often think is important is going into political science. But in the state legislature, we deal with all kind of issues that pertain to every area of career. So banking, environment, we deal with issues with industrial, we deal with road transportation. So we have a quite an array of areas that we work on. We work in healthcare concerns and the like. So I think whatever skills you bring to the table and whatever education or background you bring to the table, it's all relevant to the state legislature and the decisions we make on a continual basis. How do you use math, reading, writing, business, technology, science, and foreign language skills in your work daily? Well, I think I kind of mentioned that before that some of the key math, I would say, we use math on a daily basis because if you sit on the budget side of state government, we are constantly looking at the numbers and looking at how the state budget is allocated. We also look at whether or not we have enough money or if we don't have enough money. So that's where your pluses and minuses come into uh, play when it comes to state budget. When it comes to reading, as I mentioned before, we do read legislation. We read the newspaper. We read several documents that require you to be able to read. Writing, we often write memos, we write newsletters. We also look at writing policy and getting support writing policy to make bills into law. So that's other areas. We use technology on a daily basis because we use our computers to read information, read emails, and things of that nature. All right. So the next question is, what advice would you give a student interested in your career? Well, I would definitely tell any student who's interested in becoming an elected official, the first big thing that I would say is really important is to volunteer in your community. That way you can get an understanding of what are the concerns of the people in your community. I think that's very important. Secondly, I would say volunteer with a candidate, someone who is running for office on a local level or on a state level. Having that experience will help you to understand what a candidate might go through. The next question is, what advice would you give a student interested in a career? Oh, that would be the advice I give you. Sorry, that was number 8. What type of starting position and salary would someone entering this field be likely to make or find? Well, I will say this, we are elected officials and our salary is decided by the majority party. And also through the Civic Service Commission as well. Um, the legislature makes a salary of around 72,000 a year. There's no raises and there's no bonuses or anything of that nature because we serve the constituency. And so that is the salary of the legislature. And it's been that way for at least probably 10 years or so. And so we don't have a raise, and our our salary does not adjust with the cost of living unless that is a decision that's made, as I said, by the commission. Next, do you have do you have to depend on others in order to accomplish your job? Do you work as a team? Absolutely, yes. So there are several times where we work as a team. I have a team in my office who helps to support any policy and law and decisions being made. We work together collectively to make sure that we have different meetings in the district, and also that the constituency have a voice here in Lansing. So if there's ever an issue with state government that a constituent has, we have a liaison that helps support to get those issues resolved. We also work with several people across state government that help support policy initiatives, as well as making sure that budgets are balanced here in the state as well. So we work with several individuals. We have several departments across the state of Michigan. And I work specifically with the Health and Human Service Department, which is around 15,000 employees, but also a makeup of half of the state budget, which is around $29 billion. And I said billion with a B. And also a lot of areas in which people in the community need those supports. Um, I'll answer one more question. And the last question be, what part-time jobs, internships, and extracurricular activities would best prepare you for this occupation? As I mentioned before, volunteering your community is probably the best way that you can start to learn how to be someone who is civically engaged. Volunteering with your city government and also with your county government and any type of youth programs that they may have are also great ways for you to get engaged with a local government. And from the state level, I think the best way is to continue to volunteer. Hopefully, if you get a chance to take a tour of the state capitol, that's also a great way to understand state government a little further. And also, I think do research. I think that is so important to making sure that you understand how state government works. You can go to michigan.gov. I also can provide you with information from our offices, and just learn, and always be open to learning. So, with that said, I want to say thank you all so much for this opportunity to come before you on your career day. And I hope that this has been resourceful. Feel free to reach out to our offices at any given time if you have other questions. And I definitely look forward to continue to serve you here at our state capitol. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day and enjoy your career day.